So imagine, and today I'm going to take you down a different road. I'm going to ask you to put yourself in a position, whether you voted me in as being a representative of your state, or maybe you ran a campaign for me. All this is hypothetical. I'm not running for office. Or maybe you voted for someone and that person won. It's great news, right? Either way, what would you want that person to do as an order of business now that they are in Congress? Now, let's step back here for a second. Congress, being a member of Congress, gives you the opportunity to do nothing but good. In a true definition of the word, it is service. You are doing things for the people that help put you in office to make changes. But let's go a step further, even for the people that didn't vote for you, right? They're still there to help their residents, their constituents, to help them in however way they can. Maybe it means going to another country and trying to bring in business. Maybe it means going to businesses and saying we're ready to open up factories here, what tax breaks, whatever that elected official can do, they are there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to improve the life of its residents and its citizens, right? So, with all that in mind, what would be the first order of business you would want if you elected this official, or if you're part of the campaign, or you voted me in, or I know you personally? What would be the first thing that you want? Something that benefits you and the community as a whole, right? More jobs, things like that. Maybe lower the tax rate somehow. Better school fund, more funding for schools, more teachers being hired. Decrease the classroom size, more police officers on the street. All these things are good, and that is why you elect officials. So now, with all that in mind, that I've set you up for what clearly is the job of an official, what if you put me in office and I say, I know what I'm going to do? Because this is an important issue. I want to increase banking fees and overdraft charges on the people who put me in office. What would you think then? Rage? Confusion? Right? Where do we go from doing what's good for my community to let me make sure people spend more when it comes to banking or anything else for that matter? Is there any logic to that? Of course, the answer is no. But that's what Senator Tim Scott, former presidential candidate who got nowhere, coincidentally, with President Trump, hasn't been nominated to anything. And from the House of Representatives, you have French Hill, who are sponsoring a bill to do just that. Now, let's backtrack a few months. It was President Biden's administration that passed the law to make sure that these fees and charges are capped at 5%. This is an estimated $5 billion in savings to consumers, right? So if that's not there to protect you and the politician's not there to protect you, who's left to protect you? Nobody. See, because it used to be the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this is where I asked a rhetorical question I've always asked in my classrooms, especially when I'm explaining bankruptcy law and how bankruptcy law was designed to protect businesses and not to protect consumers. Who is your lobbyist? How many millions of dollars did you donate to your state rep or senator in order to push laws that protect you, like keeping these $5 caps? Chances are you don't have one. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, of course, Russell Vault, Project 2025, what are they doing? They're trying to get rid of it. Of course, everything under the guise of fraud. All this fraud, and not one person has been arrested. There has yet to be one press conference from the Department of Justice saying, we've got a few individuals, we're questioning them right now, we'll keep you. None of that has happened. You would think, common sense, that the Department of Justice would be all over this, or the acting director of the FBI saying, we've got them. We found the fraud. They haven't found any. Now, what they're looking for is waste. which is great. No one has a problem with that, but they can't find any. So they have to hide under fraud. But now the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's on their hit list. They're going after that. You can look up the hundreds of millions of dollars that they've been able to recoup just on lawsuits alone. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I wrote a blog on this potentially, or maybe it was just a social media post where they filed a lawsuit against a student loan provider who has now agreed, per the terms of their agreement, approved and ratified by the court, that they will no longer be in a student loan business. That lawsuit was, I think, was about $110 million. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau also was part of getting medical bills removed from your credit report. Why is that important? A, because it destroys your credit, and B, because medical bills are the number one reason people file for bankruptcy. Now, as to the credit, I'm not going to get into that detail because I'm still stuck on this Tim Scott issue, but just put it to you this way. I've done personal injury work. When you get in a car accident, right, it takes months and months and months of therapy and negotiations going back and forth with all the medical providers and dealing with the insurance companies trying to get a payout. And during that time, you have hospitals or doctors sending bills and reporting to the credit bureau that that person is late on their bills. It destroys your credit. Meanwhile, you're going to pay off all that debt. But in the meantime, your credit's taking a hit. It makes no sense, especially if the accident wasn't your fault. But that's the way the game is played. So Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is removing that from your credit, which only helps you. This idea of the $5 cap with President Biden, that's $5 billion more in the pockets of consumers. And I took a screenshot. So give me a second here to look this up. My phone's been off for a while. But I just wanted to make sure I got the quote correctly. So they are saying they overturned the rule, saying it harmed consumers and eliminated policies they believe promoted financial discipline and responsibility. You're overturning a rule where I pay something for $5 and maybe now pay $35, $36, $40. When in the hell has anything ever been protect me by paying more for something? What? Double speak. George Orwell, 1984. We are living it right now. When could I pay more for something and that's a way of protecting me? So when I go to Walmart and I buy a 6-pack of Heineken and you increase the price for $5, that's protecting me? Why? Because your theory is I'm going to drink less? Is that the weird double talk that they're doing? That's exactly what they are doing. Now, I could get into the issues of, I think it was $5 million that Tim Scott has received over the course of his career campaigning from financial companies. That would make sense, right? But this concept of they're protecting us, it reminds me of 2008 when after like 2 times that I did this, I started noticing that my creditors were lowering my line of credit. So let's say I had a $15,000 line of credit and I'd send out a $2,000 payment, it would go down to $13,000. So I had like zero available credit. I'm like, why is this zero? I finally called them up and I go, what's going on here? And this is during the 2008 financial crisis. They said, that's to protect you. Protect me from what? Well, just to protect you, what happened was, and I think that's a law that I think Obama passed saying that creditors cannot react to what another creditor does. I was turning in my home. It was in foreclosure. I put it in foreclosure. I didn't want it anymore. The house was worth nothing. And creditors started to react. And it created that snowball effect where everyone else started doing the same thing. And they're all telling me, but you still have to pay. You think I'm going to pay because you guys keep lowering my credit and denying me access to bills that I've been paying on time for years? Absolutely not. I didn't pay any of them. But that's the double talk that these creditors do. Now, excuse me here. My question is, did you vote for Tim Scott or French Hill or Republican for that matter? I want you to look and do your own research on how many recessions we have had as a country, let's say going back whatever you want, half a century, and which president of which party caused it. You might be surprised at the answer. Republicans are not there to protect you. If they were, there would be no logic. to trying to pass a law that benefits banks and doesn't benefit you or me and takes more money out of our pockets. All this chaos you're seeing here. What was it? 3,500 park rangers have been fired. You have entire departments that have been wiped out. 200,000 federal probationary employees have been fired on the spot. There's some sort of letter going viral where the person said, I kept voting for you, but I believe you're going to do the right thing and everything else. Farmers and USA, let's go to the farmers for a second. Did they forget what happened during the first Trump presidency with the Trump tariffs with China and Mexico and how bankruptcy skyrocketed during that time for farmers, which could be either Chapter 7, total liquidation, Chapter 11, depending on the debt limits, if not Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is specifically for farmers, but if the debt limit's too high in assets, then they can do a Chapter 11. Did they forget about that? Maybe they weren't farmers at that time. They didn't realize that this was going to happen. He's been talking about it all this time. My only concern is now that we're seeing the issues with the national parks, what do they plan to do with the land? We've heard the rumors on that one before. I can start thinking of all the drilling that they're going to do. Drill, baby, drill, right? But besides all that, tell me one thing that has been done in this last month, right? What day is it today? Are we on the 20th? Yeah, today makes 1 month, the longest month of your life. One thing that they have done to protect the consumers. Now, you could say this takes time. Everything takes time. But where's the executive order that takes 30 seconds to fill? We have executive orders to allow white South Africans experiencing racism to come over to the United States while we're deporting thousands by the day just because they're brown skinned. One thing financially that they have accomplished in 1 month. Cutting waste from the government. What we don't know what waste. They're just randomly cut. FAA. How many airplane accidents do we need to have over the next 1 month we've had already to see that this is a problem? See, it's not that complicated. You can't have two people do the job of 10. You really can't. And if you believe so, the next time there's someone, hopefully not you, that you're in an emergency room, let's cut the staff down to one doctor and one emergency room nurse. We don't need 5 assistants and 3 doctors overlooking that. Or for your vet as well. Because I know in my vet, they have the 2 assistants and they have the vet when they're performing surgeries. Let's just have the vet, one person. Let's cut everything. There's a reason you can't cut everything. It's just that simple. You can't do the laws of karma. You can't do 2 things at once, right? Besides physics, you can't be at 2 places at once either. But that's where we are right now. We're in 1984, doublespeak. You're going to hear things, and if you don't use critical thinking, you're thinking somehow Tim Scott or French Hill are doing something to your benefit, to protect us. I don't need protection. You want to protect me? Lower everything. That protects me. Increasing the cost of something doesn't protect me. Why do we just increase the cost of cars too? Protect me from crashing. That'd be a great idea, right? Instead of a whatever car, I don't know, Toyota Tercel, what are those things worth? $20,000? Let's make it worth $60,000 to protect us, because the less that we're driving, the less accidents, the less fatalities. Sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? No, it's an incredibly stupid idea, but that's a doublespeak that they're giving us. Listen, pay attention. I keep saying it over and over and over again. Are we heading into a recession because of Trump? I fail to see how we're not. When you're having these massive firings, the federal government is the largest employer in the United States. That is going to affect the local economy. That means credit cards may not get paid. Leases are being broken. If people are in Washington and now they've lost their job and they have to go somewhere else, that lease is broken. That affects the landlord, right? That it all goes down the line. It affects every single business, every single person. I hope we don't go into a recession, but I fail to see how we are not, especially when there's been no steps whatsoever taken to protect the consumers. We're federal employees. And now they're trying to pass a law to increase banking fees. That ought to tell you everything you need to know. So next time you vote, do yourself a favor. Don't vote because you tried to associate with a particular party or individual. Vote on what is in your best interest after doing research and looking at the history of this person. And when they tell you they're going to do something, who's this person? What are they going to do? Because Trump has told he's going to do a lot of things, and he's doing it. Now everyone's shocked. Look into the history. Don't focus on debates alone. Read credible media, even independent media, as long as they're credible. I've always said, question me, question everything I say. I got nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to spread misinformation. Quite the opposite. I'm here to let you know what's going on and that you need to be prepared financially. Be prepared. Chaos causes political instability, and political instability causes financial instability. Do your research. Vote for those that truly have your self-interest at heart and in mind, not just the invisible boogeyman, of immigrants, right? Immigrants who are stealing all your Social Security benefits. I think President Trump passed a law, an executive order on that. If you're here, if you don't have status, there's no benefits to receive. This is a lie that they've been perpetuating for I don't know how many decades, and people still believe this nonsense. There's actually people who think President Trump is in his 60s, and he actually is, what, 6'3", 215? Thank God to Dr. Ronnie Jackson. Yeah. So critical thinking, don't believe everything that they're telling you. And at the end of the day, it's about your bottom line. If you voted for Trump thinking he was going to improve your bottom line, then you weren't paying attention the first time around. I get it. You remember the COVID check. Yeah, that doesn't mean that the economy was great. Okay, to get that check again, you know what you need? Another COVID outbreak, pandemic. Hey, we're getting it through measles, right? Don't worry, RFK is going to take care of it. But you see, that's my point. What are they doing financially for you? I even wrote a blog post saying, don't get sick. If RFK is doing all the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, and apparently Republicans are on board with that, and so is President Trump, that hurts your bottom line. And again, the number one reason people do bankruptcy, medical bills. So don't get sick and don't overdraft your bank account. And I guess you'll be okay. And don't buy a car because of 25% tariffs. And don't buy anything with steel or aluminum either from China because of the tariffs. Yeah. Get my picture? Any questions or comments, let me know. Anything, just let me know. And again, be prepared financially.